comes to order. Madam Clerk, do we have a quorum?
Yes.
And today, the mayor will be on a conference call with us via the meeting. It's my turn to do the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, so please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please bow your heads. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you have given us and for the recent and continuous moisture that you are providing us to nourish our land. Help us to remember the reason for our season that we're in and to celebrate Christmas and the real reason why we celebrate Christmas. Help protect those that serve us and defend our community as well as our nation. Please watch over us and guide us with wisdom during our meeting to help us lead our community in a positive direction. In this we pray, amen. At this time is the regular approval of minutes of the last regular meeting. If there's any corrections, I didn't see any, but they'll stand as approved. And public comment at this time, this is the time we set aside for 30 minutes to have any public comment and comment that is not on the agenda. We give you 5 minutes, and if you would like to comment, please come to the mic and state your name. All right. We'll move on to consideration of petitions and memorials.
Did you want to take up
Oh,
another
we could
issue
do-
right after public
yeah.
comment? It's up to
We
you.
can ask the commission. We were looking at, because we do have some scheduled scheduled meetings, we were looking at moving from the old business up to this point, the governing body considering the extending or allowing expiring of ordinance 2884-2020, which is the requiring of face coverings in the city. Would the commission like to take that up right now, and then we don't have to worry about it later
Sure.
on?
Yeah.
Sure.
That's good.
All right, we'll just move that to the front. So
Okay. So the governing body is asked to consider extending or allowing to expire ordinance number 2884-2020, which requires the wearing of face coverings in the city of Garden City. At the November 17th, 2020 regular meeting, the governing body approved ordinance number 2884-2020, requiring face coverings in the city of Garden City. The ordinance was designed to expire in 30 days or be extended for an additional 30 days by a majority vote of the governing body prior to expiration. Finney County Board of Commissioners adopted Resolution 2020-07 on November 23rd, 2020. This resolution does not currently apply within the city limits of Garden City because the city of Garden City has a face covering ordinance. Were the governing body to allow its ordinance to end, a reasonable interpretation of Finney County Resolution 2020-07 is that it would then become effective in Garden City through December 31st or no longer if extended by the Finney County Board of Commissioners. Finney County's resolution is nearly identical to the city's ordinance as far as substantive provisions. The city's ordinance has an exemption for first responders engaged in the performance of their duties. The county's resolution does not have that exemption. The county's resolution does not apply to K-12 public or private school buildings and facilities. The city's ordinance applies to schools. Finally, the county's resolution leaves enforcement up to the Finney County Attorney or the Kansas Attorney General. There is no stated penalty section. Apparently, enforcement and what sanction is to be sought is left to the discretion of the prosecutor. The city's ordinance has a penalty section with designated fines. The city's Community Health Advisory Board voted at their December 8th, 2020 meeting to recommend to the City Commission that they extend the city face covering requirement an additional 30 days. There are 3 weeks between the last meeting in December and the first meeting in January. If the governing body approves a 30-day extension to ordinance number 2884-2020, the governing body would then review the matter again at its next regular meeting on January 5th, 2021.
any discussion?
So was there any tickets that were issued throughout this first?
Well, here comes Chief.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. There were no citations issued. During, from November 16th to December 5th, we had 9 different complaints of non-compliance. 8 were from community members, 1 was from an officer observation. Of the 9, we were unable to locate one of the complaints. Another complaint was unfounded because everyone was walking into this. The complaint was the individuals walking into the store and were maintaining distance, didn't put on a mask until they entered the store. 1 was medical, and the remaining were all verbal warnings with compliance. Individuals complying with during our education piece with them.
Okay, thank you. That's all I had. I was curious on how that transpired for this first round. So.
Anything? Anybody from the community have any comments, concerns, input?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Callie Dyer. I'm the Executive Director for Live Well Finney County, and I am also a member of the Community Health Advisory Board, and I'm here today on behalf of the Community Health Advisory Board. And as Ms. Cunningham stated, we did vote 2 weeks ago on this, and it was, we had discussion about it, and we would like to ask you to put it in effect again as it is written today and move forward until your next meeting to go forward, because it has not been long enough to see any effect. In fact, the last data that the health department has put out is that we're at 65% in our community. So I would just ask that we just have not had enough time to see the effects of the face covering ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, do you have any questions?
No, I just a couple of comments. I know that watching the Finney County Health Department's their assessment, really nothing has changed. I do think that it brought a lot of attention to that masks are part of the solution. They are not the solution, but a part of the solution. And the only other thing I really want to add is I really appreciated us leading and making sure that our religious organizations were protected and being able to meet and carry on. So I think that we were very intentional in what we wanted to do with our face covering ordinance, and I think it should continue.
Okay. So entertain a motion then.
I move to approve a 30-day extension to ordinance number 2884-2020.
Commissioner Euler made the motion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
There is a second by Commissioner Dick. Any discussion at this point? None being, all in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All opposed?
Aye.
Nay, or aye? Passed 3-2. All right. Matt's here, so we can play musical chairs.
Vice Mayor, just to be clear, 2 nays,
Two
Ortiz and
nays.
Cessna?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
thank you. We're up to item 6 for consideration of petitions, memorials, and remonstrations.
Okay. Mayor and Commissioners, the governing body is asked to consider a request from Roxanne Morgan, Finney County Convention and Visitors Bureau, to authorize yard signs for a Very COVID Christmas reverse parade of lights to be placed in the right-of-way along Maple Street, 9th Street, and at Main Street and Maple Street. Evidently, there's not anybody here to...
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
I'm sorry,
Roxanne.
Roxanne, you'd like to say something?
We just wanted to ask for your blessing on this. I think it's important that we have a community event. We do it in the safest way possible. way for us to get together and stay separate. And the float, the folks on the float, if they remain with their float, have to be wearing a mask at all times. So I think we've tried to think of every option that we could to make sure that we have a very safe and very COVID celebration.
All right.
I guess,
And these signs aren't placed in the right-of-way, they're paid? Is that correct? I know I had asked our public works staff, and we'll probably just pause awkwardly for a little bit until Mike can come in. He's got to wait for the delay to hit. Oh, here he comes.
yeah, there he comes.
Mike, can you address the question about right-of-way? I know when, based on our previous discussions on other items, if there's signs in right-of-way, us being a little bit more involved in the placement of those.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, these signs, it's my understanding, will be placed behind the right-of-way. They'll be placed on private property.
Okay.
So, and we explained to them that you can't put them on in the right-of-way, and if they do by accident, then we'll try to notify them or we'll have to remove them, but it didn't appear that these would be any conflict at all for us.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. I know that's where you and I had left the discussion, that we thought it was private
Yes.
property and we were just allowing a temporary sign to be put up, and it wasn't a placement that we needed to make sure, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, that's the only
Okay.
thing we were looking at. I'd
That was-
recommend approval.
That was my question on that, so. Any other questions? Entertain?
Yeah, this is Mayor Unruh. I just wanted to say I appreciate Roxanne really talking about making sure that it was safe as possible, but I do think all of us are due for some holiday cheer. I did get a really big chuckle out of the name of the parade, so I think that was nice too.
Okay. Entertain a motion on this item?
I move that we approve the request to allow signs to be placed in the city of right-of-way.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. That
Thank
item
you very
passed.
Thank you.
Item 7A, this is a presentation of the compensation and classification study update from the Human Resources Department. Ally?
Mayor and Commissioners, yes, this report is an update for the compensation and classification study completed by McGrath Human Resources Group. You did receive that report in March that had information totals for you to consider. Those were not updated as we didn't have, they were forecasted with the current evaluations going through the December evaluation date. So now the data that you'll see in this report does include those increased evaluations, movements due to promotions or new hires. You will have a couple of items to note where you will see either a large increase or a large decrease. So in the electric department, you will see a large decrease. That was due to us not forecasting out the increases that the apprentice linemen would receive as they went through the program. So that's why you will see a decrease in that area. And then also for the police department, we do see an increase there. That's due to those new hires coming in at a lower rate on the initial hire, and then now being moved up into the current pay plan. The Human Resources Department is conducting employee meetings. They did that; those occurred last week, and then we'll continue this week as we are giving employees updates on this, how to use the pay plan system, where those grade systems are going to be at, and where they fall in that STEP system. Any questions for me?
Mayor, you have any questions?
No, I know that Vice Mayor Roy Sussman and I also were able to sit in on the compensation committee, and I think they've done an excellent job. And I mean, it's been a lot of work, and I think it's overdue. And I'm really grateful that we're doing something to make sure we keep our workforce. That retention and recruitment are so important, especially in this city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7B, Assistant City Manager Cunningham and Stuart Nelson will provide an update on the architectural plans and bid package for the Garden City Police Department and Municipal Court Building.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. This is just a quick staff update. We wanted to provide you some information regarding the evidence and municipal court building. So Stuart's going to talk a little bit with you about dates of when we expect our bid package to open and when we expect that to close, and some of the other things that are going on. Drawings are complete, so we're really excited about that. And I just wanted to give Stuart a chance to be here and provide you some dates of what's coming. So.
As Jennifer said, we have completed the drawings. We are actually waiting for the final mechanical and electrical drawings, but we expect those within the next day. Not a lot gets done construction-wise over the holidays, but we do plan to get them out to contractors within probably sometime this week. And we expect then to have a pre-bid conference around the 6th of January. And then we'll accept bids on the 20th of January, assuming that those dates are available with staff. The pre-bid conference that we plan to hold will be at the project site, so we like to give the contractors some time to digest the drawings a little bit before they have a chance to go into the project site. It will be at the project site so they can walk through and see what the condition of the facility is. We've been kind of monitoring the demolition process over there, so we understand that portion of it has been completed by city staff. And so what we've done is we've gone in and verified what additional things are left to complete on the demolition, and those are reflected in our drawings and specifications.
Any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Stuart.
Good job.
Item 7C, Parks and Recreation Director Aaron Stewart will provide an update on Garden Rapids 2020 summer calendar and special events. Aaron?
Afternoon, Commissioners. So before you see kind of what we've lined out so far with the activities at the pool, one point of note is our hours will be 1 to 8, Monday through Saturday, and the opportunity there is to allow more families after work to get to the pool. Sunday will be 1 to 6, and that's to leave some opportunities for private rentals if necessary on Sunday evenings. There'll also be that opportunity on Saturdays. As far as events go, obviously we'll have a grand opening, and then we're going to do these monthly, but adult nights will be the first Friday, kids night out second, dive-in movie on the third, and then if we have a fourth Friday, we'll leave it for rentals. If there is a fifth Friday in the month, which I'll point you to July, this was a program they ran last year, which was deck art, and it went over really well. So we're going to bring that back in July this year. As you can see, we'll run through all the way through August up until Labor Day in September, but we will move to weekends only starting the week of the 16th. Do you have any questions or anything you'd like to see added? And if you don't at this time, you're always welcome to reach out and we can explore new ideas. So.
The last 2 weeks of August were closed except for is that just because school's back in session?
Correct.
But then you open back up for just kind of a...
Weekends only.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously we'll still run that dive-in movie that first week back in school, or I guess maybe that's the second week officially, but on the 20th, we think we can host that event and still have attendance. So, and then again, rentals would be available the following week.
And then do you have special pricing on the rentals? I mean, have you got that figured out yet, or? I know Jennifer's going to be talking to us here shortly about.
So fee structure, obviously, I think as we go about that, we're going to build that around what the actual cost is for rentals. I think, daily entrance fees are one thing, but programming fees, we'll try to probably build around what it actually costs us to run it.
Okay. Any other questions from the commissioners?
This is Mayor Arner. Just a comment. I know a lot of people are excited that you still kept the pooch. I can't remember what you called it, the pooch something, but
Yeah.
so that the place where the dogs could swim still. So I wasn't sure. I didn't promise anything. I said, I don't know if they'll do that. This is a new pool, but I mean, there were several community members who were excited that you kept that. So
Yeah, that
it looks like a really good season.
That one works well because typically what happens is we drain the pool the next day.
Right.
So,
Yeah, right. Yep.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
job.
Thanks.
Item 7D, Assistant City Manager Cunningham will provide an update on fees and staffing at Garden Rapids for the 2020 season, or 2021 season.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Matt, if you could just go to my presentation. Perfect. So I worked, Aaron's on this as well because as all of you are aware, he's going to be operating the facility this coming season in 2021. We'll be working together throughout the season to make sure that it's successful. And we did work through this discussion together. So Matt, if you'll go to the next slide. The first thing that we want to make known, because we want everyone who's interested in working at Garden Rapids to be aware that starting on December 18th, which is the end of this week, we will have posted the positions that are available at Garden Rapids. We do anticipate that we will still conduct interviews as we previously would have over spring break. That tends to work for both college students and high school students when they're not necessarily in class. Obviously, it's a little bit different this year, but it might not be by then. So we are going to shoot for that same situation. We do have a manager already set up for this season. As most of you are probably aware from previous seasons, Carla has worked for us and has been a really good employee, and so we brought her back as the manager for this upcoming season. We'll be filling lots of lifeguard positions, concession attendants, slide attendants, and we will be looking to have an assistant manager just to offset those hours. It does become, we do run into overtime issues if we don't have someone to offset those, especially now that we can run into later hours in the evening. We're going to have lots of additional programming that we didn't have in the past and that we weren't able to do. One of the comments, and I think I may have shared this with you, but I'm going to share it again just in case I didn't. One of the comments that was made by the pool contractor is that he had never seen so many lights in a pool. And so we're just really excited about all the programming that we're going to be able to do with the facility because of that. So we're super excited about the staffing. We will be sending out information by letter to all of those that have worked for us before. We realize not all of those people will be interested in coming back, but we hope to pick up some from that. But we also hope to pick up a lot of new people who are interested in working at this facility. So if you know someone, please let them know to be watching for this because it is coming towards the end of this week. The next part of this discussion, this is what I want to call part one of this discussion. This is this is for me to share the information that we've looked at, the information that we've been given and kind of the models that have been set up for us. What I want you to understand is that nothing here that I'm showing you today is set in stone. It's nothing that we have to go with. Essentially what I'm showing you today are 4 different models that were put together by Ballard King. If you remember meeting Jeff from Ballard King, they put these together at the beginning of this process for us. And as we go through this, I know and kind of anticipated that you all would pick up pretty quickly on the fact that every single model makes the same assumptions. 535 daily attendances, 490 punch passes, 190 season passes. Now, as you're probably thinking, well, don't you think that'll increase with a cheaper daily admission or a cheaper annual pass or a cheaper punch pass? Probably so. But when Ballard King put this together, they were just they initially just created the $5, $4, and $3 model, and I actually said, can you build this out with a few other options so that when we go to look at this, I can plug in different numbers and make some other assumptions out of it. So just so you're aware of that as we go through this, what we're going to look at is the first one is a $5 adult, $4 senior, and $3 youth. And then we'll kind of follow through with that of all 3 passes being $5, all 3 passes being $4, and all 3 passes being $3. Now, we could plug any number into this, so after the end of this presentation, if you say, well, I would like to see a 542 or whatever it may be. I would like to get that information back from you in preparation of a meeting that we'll have in January where I'll be asking you to make some decisions about where you want to set these fees. So yeah, Matt, if you could go to the next slide, that would be great. So here's the first model. This is the $5 adult, $4 senior, and $3 for youth. You can see the daily fees, what the number of people that they are making an assumption will come each day. Aaron and I have talked a lot about this, and this anticipates approximately 535 guests a day. And if you recall previously, our average daily attendance was about 330. So this is about 200 people more. We do have a capacity of about 1,800 people for the facility. And, you know, Aaron and I believe that there's going to be days where we turn people away because we are going to have 1,800 people there. Or at least we hope we do. We hope that we're past all of this and that's what we're doing. But this is what I would call a safe assumption. 535 people a day would be safe. So what I've done on each one of these slides is I've shown 3 tables, one that shows daily fees, one that shows punch passes, and one that shows annual passes, and the revenue that you would get from that. And so this is the first model. So 197, 155. Any questions about this particular model? Okay, Matt, you can go to the next one. The next model is assuming a $5 fee across the board, so that you're charging an adult, a senior, and a youth all the same price. And you can see that we jump about $100,000 in revenue. And then if you look at the $4 across the board, you can see that scales back by about $60,000. So a $4 across the board does make more revenue than a 543, but it makes less revenue than a 5 across the board. So there's that. And then the last one that I have shown here is a $3 across the board. And it is obviously the lowest of the 3. You'll see that it comes in just $20,000 under the first model, which is 543. And it comes in at $174,885. This is $1 across the board. This is $1 more than we were charging previously for the big pool. The big pool was $2 for anyone who hadn't gone or anybody who hadn't been paying attention. We charged $2 for adults, seniors, and children. We did run some specials occasionally for $1. We had a couple days a month where you could get in for $1. And I still think we could do things like that. And there's a lot of other programs that we can offer in addition to just a punch pass and an annual pass. I've already talked to Aaron about some of the programs they run for the rec and how they handle families who aren't able to pay or that sort of thing. So we talked about that. And then I just want to talk briefly, before we go into the next slide, about the way that we look at the fees in general for the facility. So if you were to go over to the Long Branch Lagoon in Dodge and you were to look at their fee schedule, you're going to see that they have a 5-7 model. So it's $5 for youth, it's $7 for adults. But their season pass is actually cheaper than any of the season passes that you'll see listed on ours. And they're not significantly, but significant in comparison to their daily fee. And so the whole mindset behind their fee schedule was that they wanted to make significant revenue off of what they believed to be a daily admission from someone out of town. And they figured that the people who were going to pay for the season passes would be their local community. I don't know how that fits our local community. We never sold very many season passes to the big pool. I don't know if that will change with this facility. I would be a little bit hesitant without more information from the community to put that out there as our option, because I'm not sure that that's how our community uses our facility. But that's how they've gone about it, and for them, and in talking to them, it seems like it's been successful for them. They've been able to generate a lot of revenue off of that $5-7 model, and then still keep the annual pass for their community very low, right? Because at 86 available days and $42 for your annual pass, it's under $2 a day. So there is that, and that, if you go to the next slide. This is just a very quick, and I didn't want to get into too much detail, but this is just a very quick breakdown of the solid 5, the solid 4, the solid 3 models for expenses and revenues, and this is total. So we're talking, this revenue here is not just for the season passes, punch passes, and daily admissions. This also includes rentals, birthday parties, swim events, swimming lessons, you know, everything that will be encompassed into our revenue. But I just wanted you to see the difference overall when you're looking at this, and kind of be able to think about that as you process how you might want to go about setting these fees. And
Jennifer, what's included in the expenses?
so the expenses is everything. It is lifeguards, it's chemicals. The budget for the expenses is set up exactly as the budget for the big pool has been in the past. We actually created the very same line items and put the stuff in there. So uniforms, the benefits that we have to pay, concessions, every item that we would buy in our normal budget.
It does not include the debt service for the construction of the pool, though.
It does not include the debt
Okay.
service, correct?
Just right quick, we have to stop at this point because it is 1:30 and we do have a 1:30 public hearing. So we'll get back to this discussion, but we need to go to item in new business A?
Item 12A is a 1:30 public hearing on the matter of the governing body hearing questions, concerns, and comments from the public with regard to the 2020 budget amendments that are necessary to reflect actual 2020 expenditures. So the appropriate steps would be to open the public hearing, take public comment. After public comment, close the public hearing, and at that point, the governing body is asked to approve the certificate of amendment for the 2020 budget. And Mary, your choice as to whether or not you want Melinda to speak before you open the public hearing or open it and have her speak.
Come speak before we open the public hearing, and then we'll open afterwards.
Okay, good afternoon. I'll take this time just to review what we are amending in this budget for 2020. The first fund is the Recreation Commission, and that's due to the fact that tax receipts exceeded budgeted amounts, so we're paying that out to the Rec Commission. The Capital Improvement Reserve, we placed the grant for the fiber in this fund, and we're spending it out this year in 2020 before the end of the year. Cemetery endowment, we completed the sidewalks around the cemetery with the funds that were available. Project Safe Neighborhood is a new 2020 grant that the police department was able to receive. Drug enforcement, forfeiture revenue and expenses are higher than budgeted. On the revolving fund, the Friends of Lee Richardson Zoo used this fund to construct the carousel, and then they reimbursed us for it. Economic development loan, we utilized the funds for small business loans, as you know, this year. And then we had to create a new fund for Parks and Recreation, and so we're accounting for the payroll that started occurring on December 2nd. Is there any questions on those?
I will open the public hearing right now.
Thanks, Melinda.
Thank you. Anybody from the public would like to comment? I'll close the public hearing. So we just need to make a motion to
If you don't have any other questions of us and you're supportive of the changes as outlined by Melinda, the appropriate motion would be to amend the budgets as shown on the 2020 amended budget certificate.
I so move.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, back to Assistant City Manager Cunningham's presentation on the fees.
So essentially, I wanted to start this discussion today because my hope is that we can actually get these fees set in January, because we're gonna have people, I've already been getting messages about how soon our season passes will be available. People are very excited, and so since we will be printing those, I want to make sure that we get out ahead of this and we can get them all done for anyone who's interested. Normally, just so you're all aware, fees are set for whatever we're working on. Typically, fees would be set by staff, or we would work through setting these, but when we initially had this discussion about this new facility, it was something that the commission at the time felt very invested in and wanted to make sure that they had this admissions discussion. It was very important to them, and so I'd like your feedback today, and like to understand what you would like me to bring back to you in January to kind of finalize this discussion.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was doing some research on my own as far as just looking at other water parks, around the area. So I do think like all of these prices are very attractive for Garden City. I don't think any one of these would be a disappointment for a family of my size of 6 going that would spend $30 to go and, swim for a day. That's a whole day of activities that we can do as a family. So, I appreciate you guys going through that and spending some time and figuring out those numbers. But I would like to know what you guys are thinking as far as the annual passes, what those packages might look like, just for what you guys are thinking. So
yeah, so Matt, if you want to go to, let's just pick any slide, and I'll just point out, this one's fine, Matt, on the 3-3 model. So if you look at the annual pass here, you'll see that an annual pass under this particular model for adult, youth, or senior would be $75, and a family annual pass under this model, and we typically say a family pass is 4, and then we have to work out the details of what additional from 4 means. And someone reminded me of that when I had a 3rd kid, that 5 does not fit most of the family models. So you have to start figuring out what that looks like. And we did it in the past for Big Pool. We had several very large families that got annual passes, and we figured out a way to make those work. So that's where you'll find the prices for those. And then we have what's called a punch pass. And the way that I understand a punch pass to work is that you would get a set number of punches. So it might be 50 punches. And that would be, you could use those anytime for the entire season. And so if you took your family of 6, that would be 6 punches off of those 50 punches. That model works well. The punch pass works well for daycares, people who have in-home daycares who don't always have the same kids there. And so an annual pass for someone who they have to use the same pass, that doesn't work. So a punch pass works well for that.
Other questions, commissioners?
Yeah, hey, this is Miranda. Hey, I just want to also, Jennifer, just to keep in mind this idea that, this is going to be mainly cash business, so the cash that people, and young people and also parents would be carrying in. So sometimes I think having too many dollar bills makes it a little bit more complicated. So knowing that people aren't going to bring their debit cards to pay these is more going to be cash business. So just thinking through that, what that looks like when people are bringing dollars into the pool.
One thing I have is if revenue is more than expenses on this, where does that revenue go? Does that go into just the general budget, or does it go specifically somewhere?
I would say the commission would direct that. I'm sure we would have it's a general fund expense line item, so, and those are general fund revenue streams. So without any specific direction, it would be a general fund revenue. If it's unused, it's part of your general fund carryover going into the following year. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that trend and it was a meaningful number to dedicate some of that to the debt service towards the project.
Right.
So now, that's a policy decision for you. You might hear that recommendation from us, but that isn't, that we're not making that happen aside from your direction.
So one thing I'd like to see in the future, just when we're getting this set, is taking the debt service along with the expenditures and that difference between revenue and expenditures plus debt service. Compare that to what we were doing before with the big pool, what the expenditures, revenues, including, because we were budgeting in $500,000 worth of maintenance or whatever it was. So including that in, so we know that what the impact was with the old big pool. Because for the most part, we were all fine with what that level of burden was, and see how that compares to this level of burden. And does a $3 pass make sense? Does that, or however that shakes out? So we can kind of just compare a little bit more apples to apples, the overall cost from the previous facility to this new facility.
And we did that once before.
Yeah.
So I'll go back and find which meeting we did that on, and I'll pull that information, and share that with you, at the next meeting.
Yeah. But in general, I'm in favor of as affordable to families as possible. I don't think this needs to be a enterprise fund.
Is there a category that it's free for? Because I noticed on some of the other models, they had like 0 to 2 is free. So those kids or those, moms that bring in, dads bring in the 0 to 3, or not 0, but under 3 years old.
So none of these models assume two things. None of these models assume free for 0 to 2, and none of them assume free for non-swimmers. And that was for 2 reasons. Valerie King said that sometimes that's very hard to keep track of for staff. If you have someone who's a 16-year-old working at the admission gate, and you have a mom who comes in with 4 small children and says, well, they're all under 2, the 16-year-old has to say, okay. There's no way to necessarily, unless they're a baby, there's no way to necessarily know age groups.
Yeah.
And then the other issue, because we also talked about the person who's watching, since we're trying to make rates affordable, the idea of it being affordable was just that it be applied to everyone across the board, to try and help with staff and all of those sorts of things, because then you have the person who comes through the gate and says, well, I'm just intending to watch. Well, the way our facility is set up is you actually don't you can come in your bathing suit, but you go into the bathhouse once you're in the facility. So nobody would necessarily know, unless then we started a bracelet system or something else on top of what we're already doing to then police that. And I think that's asking a lot of high school students.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea. Also, I appreciate the hybrid model of the 5, 4, and 3, but if I'm an adult and I take my kid, that's $8, where $4 across the board just kind of, it simplifies it, but like what Mayor said, just round numbers as far as not as many ones. If cash is being involved, that could be, a $5 price range all across the board.
And that's what I was thinking, if instead of exchanging all this cash and then the kids are holding cash, $5 is easy because you give them a $5 bill and that's the entry fee. I was going to say something else. Oh, I did like what you talked about earlier about for students, that can't afford it, or parents that can't afford this. You're looking at working on ways to help those families to access this. But I wanted to, and you actually answered it about what like Long Branch was doing, or the facility up like in Salina or that type of thing. But I think I don't want to try to lowball other places to attract people, but I want to keep it affordable for us, but also maintain where we do get a return on our investment, because this is a big investment in the community as well. But I did like that you guys are looking into that for helping our families that really can't afford, and big families that can't afford, a $5 fee for each child and stuff, so.
Well, and that's been the biggest comment that I've had, is just because of, the population that I deal with and talk to, is that affordability. And a lot of parents just can't afford $5 for their kids. So in a way, I kind of like the hybrid model for that, just because of that affordability. But at the same time, as long as there's that feature built in where there is a way for parents to be able to make it affordable for their kids, anything that we can do to help them, I think would be, I know I would be for that.
And we could always, Aaron and I have discussed, so for instance, if you take this and you say, you were a parent and you were gonna buy an annual pass for your child. So it works out to be less than $1 if your kid was to go every day. And I know there are some kids who go every day in the summertime. We have kids who show up every day. So it works out to be less than that. And what we've talked about is 2 things. Can we offer employers kind of like we do with golf memberships and things like that, to do a withdrawal from their paycheck so that it's easier for them. We've also talked about other ways that we can take payment for this kind of thing that will allow people to do it more easily. So.
I really like that idea of working with the employers and having it be something that they could take out of their paycheck, because that would really simplify the cash piece of it, but at the same time be able to make it affordable. Because I know if you spread that out over the course of 26 pay periods or 50, however many pay periods you have, that really does, that affordability factor does certainly come in.
Any other feedback that you have for us as we get this ready for a final decision for all of you?
All right, I think you kind of know where we're coming from, so.
Okay. I'll get
Good
some stuff
job.
put together and see you next month.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.
Items E through L are staff reports. If you've got any questions on those, we'd be happy to try to answer them. Hearing none, meetings of note are listed there. Let's see, item 9A, that's the appropriation ordinance, and if you were to approve that, it would be ordinance number 2521-2020A.
I'll make a motion, we approve appropriation ordinance number 2521-2020A. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There is a second. Any other discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Mayor?
Sorry, I didn't hit my mute quick enough.
I went a little too quickly there. I'll slow down. So.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry about that.
That item did pass.
Item 10A, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a resolution establishing a date and time for a public hearing regarding the Rural Housing Incentive District for Sunflower Crossing Addition. If approved, it would be resolution number 2863-2020. Carol?
Good afternoon. Okay, so for this, I should get to my actual staff report here. For this resolution, this is an RHID resolution. It comes in a series of resolutions with the RHID. This is the second one establishing a date for public hearing, which will be January 19th at 1:30 p.m. That will be the public hearing for this RHID. A little bit about this RHID, as Matt mentioned, it's called Sunflower Crossing, and it is located on Spruce Street, right by the bypass, right on the other side of East Cambridge. There will be 62 lots. 18 of the lots will be as a part of a PUD, which means the lot sizes will be a little bit smaller, but they still will be single family. And then the remaining lots will be just straight R1 single family homes. All of the lots, or all of the homes, will be slab on grade. This is in a floodplain. They need to take measures. So slab on grade is the best way to handle that with floodplain issues. And so, as I mentioned, the public hearing, we would like to set this, if this resolution is passed, for January 19th at 1:30. And if you have any questions about this project, you did get a copy of the development agreement. It's not the final copy, but it's a working copy. It might be changed up a little bit, or it might just stay exactly the same at the January 19th meeting. So, if you have any there's the map. Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
How much of the setback is there between the properties to the east?
It'll be the standard setback. Are you asking how deep the lots are?
Yes.
They will be the PUD lots will be a little bit smaller, and I've got a tiny copy.
Yeah.
If you've got
Just passed it.
the map, it's like I didn't bring my glasses over here. I can't read it.
It's got this about 4 times.
Yeah, there's.
Down, I
Right,
think.
but I think if you
Go the other direction.
down, go the other way. There you go. Keep
Yeah.
going.
There
Right
it
there.
is, right there. You can blow that up some, we can get the depth from
74.
74 feet on the depths, average on the smaller lots.
Okay. And there's a easement towards the back, yeah, it looks like.
Yeah, they will be smaller homes.
Uh-huh.
It's intended, the developer intends to put in more affordable housing at those
Right,
locations.
yeah, that's something that we need in the community, so
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah. So they still will be about the same in the rear, they'll still have the same rear yard setbacks, it'll just be a smaller footprint.
Is it still the 20-foot set,
Mhm.
20 in the back, okay? That'll make it really tight.
It'll be tight, yes, it'll be tight. I believe they do have a smaller setback in the front,
Okay.
with the PUD.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2863-2020.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That item passed. Thank you.
Item 10B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a resolution declaring the boundary of the city of Garden City as of January 1, 2021. And if approved, this would be resolution 2864-2020. Carol?
Okay, for this resolution, in 2020, we did have 5 annexations into the city. They totaled to just under 11 acres, so really not that much property. They're all over the place. If you looked at the map, we do have a little parcel off of on Mary Street, northwest in town. Empirical, that development actually had 2 annexations. They were both small little remnant parcels that they annexed in. Jenny Barker right-of-way, we did annex that in this year, and then the last one was the Loves for their truck stop. They did annex in part of their property that they obtained. So this is just an annual resolution. It's a requirement by the state just to update our city limits boundaries.
Any questions? Entertain a motion on this item.
Move that we approve resolution 2864-2020.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That item passed. Thanks, Carol.
Item 10C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a resolution regarding the funding of 2017 sales tax ballot issue projects. Melinda?
The 3 Lee Richardson Zoo projects that are in this sales tax issue have been completed, and currently under construction is Jenny Barker Road with an estimated cost of $7 million, and plans are being developed for the shooting range with an estimate of $2.5 million. In the June 2020 meeting, the Sales Tax Oversight Committee inquired as to how the fund would be able to pay the project costs once these 2 projects started. At that time, it was presented to the committee that a temporary note could be issued internally by the city. After further analysis, it determined that a temporary note could not be issued since the projects were not going to be permanently financed with a general obligation bond. In discussions with Mary Carson, our bond counsel, staff wanted a document in place to formally borrow from the city's idle funds. And we're looking at using the electric capital reserve fund number 67 that has roughly $4 million, a little over $4 million in it, to cover the costs that are being incurred by the sales tax project fund number 45. This resolution being presented accomplishes the intent and provides for a 0.5% interest on borrowed reserve funds.
If approved, this would be resolution number 2865-2020.
So we would pay back with interest back into that reserve fund? Okay. And, okay. Any questions? Entertain a motion
I'll make a
on,
motion to approve resolution number 2865-2020.
is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you.
Item 11B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve filling one expiring term on the Garden City Board of Zoning Appeals. The governing body may remember this was continued from the previous meeting. Carol, anything to?
All right, just so you know, the memo's about the same. I did add a couple more names to it. Bruce Glass, who is the current member, has expressed interest, if he'd like, to extend his term. He has reached his limit, so he'd need a waiver on that. Roy Dixon, Amy Dries, and Jeff Karhoff have all submitted their applications. They're all interested. I've spoken to all of them, and they would be interested in this position, serving on the Board of Zoning Appeals. So you may either select to extend Mr. Glass's term, another term, or you can select one of these options before you. You should have the applications in your packet.
I'll make a motion to I'll make a motion to approve Jeff Karhoff to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'll second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That item passed.
Great,
Thank you.
Item 12B, the governing body is asked to consider and approve year-end transfers from the general fund to the Capital Improvement Reserve Fund for selected 2020 programs, capital projects, and equipment purchases not completed by year's end. Melinda?
She's coming.
City departments operate on an annual budget that is approved in July of the upcoming year. These budgets include projects, equipment, and program expenses which relate to those departments. If these expenditures are not completed in the current budget year, the funds set aside would become unanticipated cash carryover heading into the next year. Due to unforeseen circumstances, there are times when departments are unable to complete what has been set out for them 18 months earlier. It is recognized that these projects, programs, and capital are an important part of the department's budget, so instead of waiting another budget year, the commission has the opportunity each year to consider a transfer of the money into the capital improvement reserve funds. From here, it is spent for its intended purpose in the subsequent year. The attached schedule of transfers is proposed for 2020. The first total, 51050, is requested and justified by the department head. I'll go through those now, and then we'll have a discussion on the second portion. The Human Resource Department requested $3,750 for the advisory board be moved over for their upcoming conference in the fall of 2021. Information Technology has workstation licenses, $35,000 that will assist in Microsoft licenses in 2021. The Police Department has a 2021 vehicle that has been requested to be moved into has a 2021 vehicle funded in 2020 that they are unable to purchase until next year, so that's $19,000. I think we've all been talking about the LEC remodel. They were unable to complete that during this year, so we're moving $25,000 out of the administrative part of the budget and $39,000 out of the animal control part of the budget. There is a CAD RMS project that they're requesting $25,000 be moved into 2021, and then vehicle equipment for $20,000. Neighborhood and Development Services is looking at a first floor remodel. They had $165,800 in their budget that they're moving into next year. The street department has money left over for city link shelters. That's 4 of them, total of $40,000. The equipment for the aquatics facility, big pool, we're moving $30,000 over to hopefully any unanticipated items for the opening be used out of that. The zoo fund had building repair in their maintenance division and animal division that they're moving over, total of $7,500. The cemetery has, the bell tower needs some repairs done on it. They've allocated $10,000 to be moved over. And in the capital improvement, we have development incentives to move forward, $50,000 on it, and facilities maintenance that's located there to be used for the CAC and in the upcoming year, $40,000. Then we can go back to the memo. So that's the first $510.50 that's being requested. The next section on future debt service will assist in stabilizing the mill levy over the next 2 years. It's noted that way. It could be 1 year or it could be 3 years. The city took advantage of the lower interest rates and proceeded with the general obligation bond issue this year. Projects which were placed in that include the aquatics facility, the east side drainage, the southeast community park structures, and the fire engine. So the first debt payment will start in 2021, and they were not budgeted. The transfer of $750,000 will be allocated to the debt service in 2021 that was not budgeted for at $168,421. The remaining amount, $581,579, will assist in mill levy reduction for 22, 23, and maybe even 24. Attached is the general obligation bond schedule for your information. So if we go back to those transfers, when we first started talking about the bond issue, there was $300,000 in IT that was going to be for a fiber project. But Matt was successful in getting that fiber project funded through a grant. But we still needed those funds in order to make this first debt payment. So we are moving that money. And then the aquatics big pool debt service. This is right now, there's $480,000 left in the big pool budget. So we're moving all of that money, just like we had operated the pool the whole season, which we didn't. So that money was sitting there, so we're gonna move it into next year. So that was the thinking all along when we decided not to open the pool, that we keep the budget there and be able to utilize those funds next year. So that's the explanation on that. I do have the debt schedule included in there so you can kind of see how your debt is going to look. In the coming years, 2021.
Is that too small? That's pretty small.
Yeah, it is a little bit small.
Sorry.
And you can just focus on those first 3 columns. But if you go down to the bottom, so you're looking at $2,251,421. This is in your bond and interest fund for 2021. We're short in our budget of the $168,421 once we put all this together. So, but then we get into the next year, and that's where you have a difference here of around $900,000, and that's, we all knew that was coming, but this money that we're carrying over will help. Once you get your budget all done, you can decide what you're going to take out of the 05 to help with the mill levy reduction. It may be $300,000 or it may be $500,000. That'll be your decision in July.
Okay.
Then we start seeing some roll off. Well, 1 year. This roll off's pretty good size.
And in 2027, the 2.3 gets you back down to about where you were this year. So,
Yeah.
but you made a very good decision getting those projects funded at that low interest rate.
Sure.
Definitely helps.
Thanks,
Yes.
Melinda.
Thank you.
Any questions for Melinda? entertain a motion on this item.
I move to transfer funds to the capital improvement reserve as presented.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you.
Want to mention right quick, as Matt's
Sorry.
dialing, no, go ahead. As Matt's dialing, we need to have an executive session at the end of the meeting, so we'll have that just for everybody's information. There we go.
Allen, this is Matt Allen at the City of Garden City. We're in our public meeting right now, and we're just getting ready to start the agenda item. So if you want to mute your phone, and then we'll cue you when it's when we have questions for you. Does that sound good? It must. All right. The item 12C, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a development agreement for the infrastructure improvements with Empirical Foods, Inc. for the development of a lean ground beef production plant. I'm going to invite Mike Muirhead to present the item. On the phone representing Empirical Foods is Alan McEntee.
Thank you, Matt. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. As you well know, we've been working on a development agreement with Empirical Foods for quite some time, probably over the last 12 months or so. But Empirical Foods Incorporated is the developer. They own about 52.2 acres of property within the corporate limits of the City of Garden City. This property is located at 110 South Jenny Barker Road. The developer plans to construct a lean ground beef production plant and all of the related facilities and improvements that are required to go with it. The plat for this property was recorded on November 5th, 2020, and the rezone from county I-3 to city I-3 is expected to go before the governing body on January 5th, 2021. The developer has received their foundation permit and is currently performing excavating work. The project has a projected commercial operation date, that's the date that they expect to be fully operating as a plant, as of April 30th, 2023. The developer has agreed, and they will pay for all the associated costs of city electric, water, and wastewater utility infrastructure necessary to construct the plant. In the first 5 years following the commercial operation date, the rates for the city utilities are proposed to be discounted to reflect the capital investment being absorbed by Empirical. And those rates are outlined in the development agreement, and they're described below. I'll go through parts of this, and I'll certainly answer any questions you have. On the electrical side of things, the estimated electrical system improvement cost to be paid to the city from the developer is just over $1 million, $1,004,352.18. Then there's a following 5-year rate structure at the end of that 5 years, or after they make that payment and move forward. And I can certainly walk you through those rates if you'd like. I'll jump ahead to what they're paying ahead of time, and then under the water service, it's estimated the water system improvement cost to be paid to the city by the developer is $675,350. And in that, the city agrees to provide up to 800,000 gallons of water a day for the first 2 years of operation, and then a maximum of 1.2 million gallons per day if it's required after that initial 2-year period. And then there again, we have a 5-year rate structure for water. Under wastewater, the estimated system improvement cost to be paid to the city by the developer is $2,552,000. This is requiring considerable improvements to the wastewater treatment plant to accommodate this new industrial customer coming onto the system. Based upon that, and in this development agreement, the developer is allowed to deliver a maximum of 400,000 gallons per day of pre-treated wastewater to the city's wastewater treatment plant. Should the flow exceed 400,000 gallons per day for 5 days in any 30-day time frame, there's a fee of $5,000 a day would be levied against them should they exceed that time frame. I might just explain real quick that the empirical plant, while different than DFA, they both will have their own pre-treatment wastewater facilities on site. So the water that they're delivering to us, the city of Garden City, is already pre-treated, and then we can handle that with these improvements that's being done to the plant. And then the rates for that are listed below as well. And in this development agreement, the developer and the city agree that in January of the 4th year after this commercial operation date, the city and both parties will negotiate new rates, 2 terms of service for electric, water, and wastewater that will begin in the 6th year following that commercial operation date. And I'll point out in the development agreement, it also says that we, the city, cannot charge them more than the rate that's advertised, or that's in the current, published in the current ordinances for rates, so we can't, you know, get them in here for this and then all of a sudden then we start charging them a bunch. So that covers that. There'll be no fiscal spending under a fiscal note impact to the electric and wastewater departments. However, long-term improvements that's been planned in the water system have been moved forward to facilitate this particular development. This will result in the fiscal impact of approximately $2 million to the water department, and funding from those improvements will come from the water's bond account that the finance director just was referring to. That's we had decided that was probably the opportune time to get the funds that may be necessary. It comes out of that account, which currently has a balance with the money that Melinda just talked about of $2.3 million. All of the enterprise accounts, water, wastewater, electrical, and solid waste, will see an increase in revenue sales based upon when this plant comes into service. With the water improvements, what has moved forward is the need to extend the 16-inch water main, basically from Maple Street, kind of over by the swimming pool, by the big pool, all the way over to kind of, if you can, just kind of follow the railroad tracks east all the way to the Jameson Energy Center, where there'll be an additional pump station constructed. And then that 16-inch water main goes up and ties into existing water facilities on Highway 50. So that we've had those planned for quite some time. Let's just move that forward a little bit faster. And then it's possible in 3 years or 5 years, then the need for an additional, some sort of water storage facility may be needed over in that area as well to help balance those two water zones together. A lot of information there. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you may have on any of it, the rates or anything else that's in there, but I didn't want to go through all of it. I do want to say that Lana Duvall she worked very well with us on all of this, as well as Matt and all of the other city staff, Carol Davidson and everyone else to help get this through. And we met with Empirical many times through the process, and actually we're really excited to be able to have that plant. It's being constructed, as you well know now, so it's a pretty exciting day for us.
Any questions?
Alan, did you have comments that you wanted to give towards this agenda item from Empirical's side?
Yeah, just if you could hear me there.
Yes, very good, thanks.
Yeah. On behalf of Empirical and on my own behalf, to the Mayor and the Commissioners, City Commissioners and your counterparts in Finney County, I'd like to thank you for your continued support in promoting Garden City as a centre of excellence in advanced food processing. It can only lead to more success down the road. To Matt and his executive team in planning and zoning, water, wastewater and electric, it's been great working with you guys. And I'd like to pay a special thanks to Mike Muirhead, who has displayed enormous patience with me and Empirical in bringing this agreement today to fruition. I'd like to also acknowledge Tom Walker and his board at Finney County Economic Development. And to Lorna and her team. As you all know, Lorna is a fountain of knowledge when it comes to all things relating to economic development. I'm not sure whether you're aware of the fact that she hijacked the empirical team when they were on their way to Amarillo to see how they would build their facility down there. She sold Garden City to them and dragged me in on the coattails of that agreement. So I have no regrets, and I think in this situation, everybody is a winner. I would like to wish all here present at today's meeting a blessed and healthy Christmas and a happy and healthy 2021. And I'm looking forward to catching up with you guys again when I come back in the early new year. So thank you all for your support. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, Matt, if I could, I would like to say too that it's been a pleasure working with Alan on this project. Alan, he too has displayed a lot of patience and working back and forth to get this done, and he definitely, he may be in Ireland today, but his heart's in Garden City, and he definitely wants it to grow and continue to move forward. So thank you on that, and I'll answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve development agreement as presented.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
No. Mayor?
Yeah, aye.
All opposed, nay. Item passes. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. Thank you, Lana. All right, 12D, the governing body is asked to consider and approve using the 0.3% countywide sales tax funds to pay for the water line on Jenny Barker Road as part of that project. Melinda.
Jenny Barker Road is one of the countywide sales tax projects. As plans started to develop for the project, it was determined that a water line should be included so that at a later date, the newly constructed road would not have to be reconstructed. The costs for the water line were accounted for separately on the road project and paid for from the city's water line construction funds, but was not budgeted as a project. The Countywide Sales Tax Oversight Committee met on June 15th of 2020 as part of the meeting heard the presentation on the water line requesting it to be included as part of the funding for Jenny Barker Road. At that time, the board recommended that it be presented at the November 2nd, 2020 meeting. That way they would have more history on the sales tax collections. On the November 2nd meeting, Mike Muirhead presented to the board the final costs of the water line and requested funding from the sales tax project fund. The board then discussed the sales tax collection record as compared to budget and unanimously recommended that it be presented to the City Commission for approval. We have attached the breakdown of the Jenny Barker Road project and the water line. The sales tax project budget is $7 million for Jenny Barker Road. The road is currently showing an amount remaining of $76,479 once everything is constructed. There are some estimated costs and a 5% contingency for the construction that could produce additional savings. So we've got some alternatives here. You can provide funding from the sales tax or not. Staff does recommend that the water line be part of the sales tax project monies. If you want to show that attachment that we had, as you can see under Jenny Barker Road, there are some estimated items in there that could result in additional savings in that budget. We haven't actually got all of the right-of-ways expended, but the relocation of Black Hills is estimated. We also have estimated for dirt quantities. So there could be some savings in those line items, and this water line might just fall right into that $7 million. So there's still that opportunity, but I do have Kathleen Whitley here. She is on the Sales Tax Oversight Committee, if you have questions for her.
Any questions for Melinda or Kathleen? Entertain a motion then on this item.
I'll make a motion to approve using the 30-cent countywide sales tax funds to pay for the water line on Jenny Barker Road as part of that project.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any other discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Kathleen. Item 12E, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a 5-year pole attachment agreement with Cox Communications. Mike?
Good afternoon again. As you know, Cox Communications is a telecommunications provider within the city of Garden City and has facilities attached to city-owned power poles. The current pole attachment agreement has expired, and a new pole attachment agreement is presented to you for consideration today. If approved, this agreement shall expire 5 years from the date approved or terminated by the city within a 6-month written notice, or 3 months notice if Cox Communication Authority is to operate its facilities have been revoked. So if for something would happen and they took away, this would go away. The pole attachment fee is $7.50 per pole. It's consistent with what the other communication providers are charged per pole attachment. It's the same as the previous agreement. If attaching their facilities to city-owned pole would cause the pole to be replaced, then could the communications provider would pay the cost of all of that. We call it make-ready work in the agreement.
Mhm.
So there's no impact to the electrical budget. It's a positive number. It creates about approximately $25,000 per year based upon the poles that Cox is attached to. They've reviewed everything. City attorneys reviewed everything, and so you can either approve the pole attachment agreement with Cox Communications or do not approve it, and staff recommends approval.
Any questions? Entertain a motion on this item.
I move to approve the pole attachment agreement with Cox Communications.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That item passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Item 12F, the governing body is asked to consider and approve a recommendation from the Compensation Committee to adjust the compensation and classification plan by the October 12-month average Midwest CPIU, as published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. As we move to the step and grade plan, one of the steps in future years was anticipated to be an annual adjustment to the grades and ranges based on an index, in the Midwest CPIU was the identified most appropriate one. So you had, in the development of the approved 2021 budget, did not include an annual adjustment to the plan. When the plan was authorized to start in the fall of 19, it was intended to have the deliverable ready for consideration during the budget process, and then implementation would have occurred sometime in fall of 2020. The recommended step and grade structure of the compensation and classification also, as I mentioned, it anticipates an annual adjustment to the plan itself, changing the minimums and maximums, and then the steps within that. As the 2021 budget was being considered in the spring and summer of 2020, staff and the governing body, in the context of the uncertainty of COVID-19, had much more conservative forecasts for the remainder of the year. And this included a decision to implement the compensation and classification plan using the ranges in the study, but instead of implementing them in the fall of 2020, implementing them on January 1, thereby skipping an end-of-year adjustment. So we would be going into the 2021 year with the fall 2019, with the step and grades based on 2019 comparables. The Compensation Committee, and you heard Ally mention them earlier this year, that's comprised of the mayor, the vice mayor, the city manager, his or her designee, the finance director, the human resources director, and a department head. The governing body approve and adjust the compensation and classification plan following implementation this January 1 by 1%. This is the 12-month average reflected by the October Midwest CPIU. It's also the November 12-month average, but I think in future years we wouldn't want to wait until December 15th or later. And so the October number comes out in the first 15 days of November and would set us up to make an early December decision and have those changes ready for January 1 of subsequent years. As indicated in the fiscal note, the general fund impact to this decision is approximately $150,000 in 2021, in addition to what is identified otherwise. Of course, in the utility funds, there's corresponding impact as well. But knowing that most of this decision rests on, okay, what's the property tax implication moving forward and the general fund impact moving forward, we wanted to kind of narrow in on that. So your choices are to approve a 1% adjustment following implementation on January 1, do not approve a 1% adjustment, or approve some other adjustment.
Any questions for Matt?
I think this is a long time waiting, so it's good to see something put to action and moving forward with this.
Entertain a motion on this item?
I'll make the motion to approve the recommended compensation package by the city to approve the 1% adjustment to the compensation and classification plan.
There's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's been a second. Any discussion on this item? None being, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay.
Thank you.
That item passed.
That's the end of the new business items, with the exception of, I do believe we have an executive session that we'd like to add to the agenda. There is an action anticipated after that executive session, so I think if you would like Vice Mayor to go ahead and take up consideration of the consent agenda, and then following that we can do comments, then come back to the executive session. Since there's no action, we could go ahead and shut down the Channel 8 broadcast at that point in time. So the appropriate motion, if nobody wants to take anything off of the consent agenda, would be G1 through 7.
I'll make a motion that we approve consent agenda G1 through 7. There a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion on that item? None being, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, nay. That item passed.
Commissioner reports.
I'm up first, so good pre-meeting this morning, discussing how we're going to be putting together the committees, looking at really communicating on what we'll be doing on the, just lost the name of it. Comprehensive plan. Thank you. Yes. Really looking for a lot of community input. We're just getting started on that, but that's where we succeeded last time, and that was mentioned quite a bit at our meeting. You know, we had a lot of community input and feedback, and that really helped us with moving the community forward over the next 20 years. And again, that's what we're looking at for this comprehensive plan. So be looking for different events and activities and people asking you about what you're looking for in the community for the next 20 years. The only other thing I have is just wishing everybody happy holidays and make them safe. Commissioner Ortiz.
Thank you. Yeah, I just thank everyone who was there this morning for the comprehension plan as well. Did get some really good feedback from that, and I look forward to actually seeing what's planned out from everyone involved, and we hope that everyone in the community gets involved, and professionals and leaders as well. So, but I also would like to just thank everyone for the comments, the gifts that I've been getting, and things for that, what this holiday brings, and that's kind of what we need to share more with everyone and with each other is that love and appreciation towards each other. So I appreciate those given. So, and I express those back to you who have done that, and also those who I haven't done it to. So it'll come, and I just wish everyone a Merry Christmas and a great time with family. So thank you.
Commissioner Euler?
Yeah, with the comprehensive plan, I mean, it really is important to make sure that every single population and every person be represented, so that the comprehensive plan really does look like what our community looks like. And so I just want to reiterate what the fellow commissioners had said. I mean, as far as shopping local, during the holidays and staying safe, making sure that you wear your masks and watch your distance and wear your mask, watch your distance, and wash your hands. So there's a third W there. Making sure we're doing all of that, because really, I mean, the overall goal is to make sure that these numbers come down, and we can only do that if we work together to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to make our community safe. And so, having said that, I do also wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I look forward to what 2021 will bring.
Thank you. Commissioner Dick?
I'll do a couple different things, I guess, since everything else is checked off my list. First, still really excited about Empirical and what they're going to bring to the community. And like Alan said, that the company was on its way to Amarillo to do this plant. So it's glad that we have a community that's strong enough and have the people in place that can not only take a prospect that looks like it's moving to a different state and actually have them locate their flagship facility in this area. That's a really good testament to what team we have in this city and in this county. Also, I don't know if you've been paying attention to the airport numbers. Still not as good as they have been, but compared to other airports in the area, we are doing very well. Not too bad at all. So that's good to see that travel has stayed there, and that's a good resource that our area is taking advantage of. And then, like everybody else, make sure you shop local, be patient with everybody, and have a Merry Christmas.
Mayor Enru?
Thank you so much, Commissioner, Vice Chair Roy Sesson, thank you so much for filling in. I really appreciate that. It means a lot that we can call on people and they have the experience and their wherewithal to take over at last minute things. I also just want to say, just a shopping local experience. I called 3 different places. I was going to order something online, so I said, hey, I'm going to call 3 different places. Each place was so kind and considerate. Looked for the item. If they didn't have it, they gave me suggestions to replace it. And then the nice thing about it is that they were all willing to be helpful. I did find it at my 3rd place and was able to. They held it, and I was able to go pick that up. So sometimes you have to be more creative when you shop local, but it's really worth it. I also just want to say I'm excited about Garden Rapids at the big pool and all of the I know that the summer seems far away, especially today with the weather, but I'm excited about the upcoming season. I also want to say thank you for just all the great work that the staff has done this year, and also the commission. I know it's hard to believe I missed being with you today. I did see you all online on both Facebook, and I tried out YouTube. There is a delay, but you looked really good and everything went really well. Just want to finish by saying Merry Christmas and have a safe and happy New Year, and I'm looking forward to 2021.
Thanks, Mayor. Ask the city clerk if I could grab the information for the executive session item.
Yeah, Mayor and Vice Mayor and Commissioners, we need to add an executive session to the agenda. It'll be the attorney-client exception to an open meeting. The reason will be a matter before the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. I'm asking that the city attorney be included along with the city manager, Matt Allen, and the Director of Public Utilities, Mike Muirhead. I would think that 10 minutes will be sufficient. And I do not intend that there will be any binding action after the executive session.
So I'll make the motion that the city commission go into executive session at this time for the purpose of consultation with city legal counsel on matters which are privileged in the attorney-client relationship, which if discussed in open session would waive that privilege, and that the city commission go in for the matter before Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, including Attorney Griselle, City Manager Allen, and Director of Public Utilities Muirhead. And we would reconvene into open session in the City Commission chambers at 2:45. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion? None being, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Okay.